It's the time to get down.
All right, so y'all ready? Ready for some news?
A little bit.
All right, I think I got it, man. I think I got my visual aids.
There's some bad news.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time we talk about. That time. The good news, the bad news, and the other shit. Yeah. Good news, bad news, and other shit. Ooh, compelling audio. Compelling. All right, you guys. Crazy stuff in the news before we get to our main topic. You always say the good news, the bad news, the other shit. I got at least comment on some of the crazy shit. For one, big old church shooting, Vic. They had a fight at a church.
What state, man? Just tell me the state. That'll tell me a lot.
What difference does it make,
man? Just
they had a fight.
give me the state lines, man.
I think it was Maryland.
I just want to know. Idaho, Wisconsin.
They had a reenactment of this, but I guess they had a seat dispute at a church.
Oh Lord!
It was Pennsylvania.
That's PMC territory. Right?
Oh yeah, so they get a little uptight over there.
Hey, how come you didn't report on that PMC?
They get a little uptight.
I wonder what was up.
But they had a seat dispute at a church.
Okay.
That led to a shooting.
All right.
They had a person who got crazy and unruly.
Right.
There was a person there who had a licensed concealed weapon, who acknowledged that they had that and asked the person to calm down. And the person didn't calm down, and quite the contrary, began to attack the person with the concealed weapon, who then shot the other person. All of this right in the church.
Okay.
Right during the Sunday service.
So we need pew security, right? We need pew.
I'm just saying, crazy, good news, bad news, and other shit.
Right.
Okay, how about this one? So every year, they have the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Right.
Where the president hosts all the correspondents who cover the White House. Very prestigious thing.
Oh, yeah.
But known because the president does some humor and some other stuff.
Right.
And this year, a fight broke out.
What?
That's right.
Give me the table arrangement.
A fight broke out, between, where are my damn notes? A fight broke out between, now these are people this is at the White House.
Yep.
Court. By the way, this is the kind of behavior that is sometimes unfairly associated with people of color. Unfairly associated. But here you are at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Okay, and Fox News correspondent Jesse Waters and Ryan Grimm from the Huffington Post had a beef from a previous show involving Bill O'Reilly.
Okay.
So they had a beef going back to 2009. Since they had a beef, Grimm decided to pull out a camera and take some videos of Waters while doing some commentary on his phone. Okay. Waters didn't like this and snatched the phone away from him. Okay. Grimm got out, went to get the phone, and they started having a scuffle.
Grimm.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that name, Grimm.
So they had they had a fight.
Right.
At the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and
no video.
I haven't seen a video.
Okay.
And I'm so proud to say it wasn't us.
Coincidentally, man. Do you know by accident at the White House dinner or Correspondents' Dinner? Tell me there are no cameras anywhere. The idea that they're there.
Well, there are cameras there because they have
footage.
It's tightly controlled.
So
it's just like your war news.
I got you.
That started, so don't give me. So it's tightly controlled what you see. So it's whatever they say it is.
It'll leak.
Good news, bad news, other shit. Next thing, Mitsubishi. Everybody knows Mitsubishi.
Right.
They make a bunch of cars.
Right.
Just had to acknowledge that they've been cheating on their mileage test for 25 years.
They did now, they did a study. how much can we get away with cheating?
Well, I think all those manufacturers of everything have been lying about everything.
Right.
So I'm just telling you.
Right.
So this is Japan's sixth largest automaker. They've lost half their market value, $3.9 billion approximately, as part of this scandal. Everybody knows about Volkswagen. All right. So now let's get to the topic of the day, which is the big topic, which may shock a bunch of people. And that has to do with bias in today's world. Let me tell you a story. I was blessed to be born the son of a black physician. My father, who didn't have it quite so good, he grew up, both of his parents basically worked as domestics, servants,
Right.
cleaning, doing
Right.
those kinds of things. As part of the early experiences, my father wanted me to travel, and he took me traveling many places. One of the things we learned about when you travel is how people of color are treated when you travel.
Absolutely.
One of the biggest challenges of that time was to get a cab as a black man, to get a cab at night, especially in New York City.
Yeah.
They would totally not stop for you. This is also one of those things which, strange as it seems, persists today. My father trained me to go into a hotel or a business establishment, usually a hotel, Vic,
Right.
and tip the doorman to call me a cab.
Right. So you can come
So
out.
that's why I learned when I would travel like to New York, when I needed a cab, I would go to a major place or hotel.
Right.
Or any place that had a door person, a restaurant,
Right.
and pay that person, tip them $5 to call me a cab. So you're already paying $5 more
Just to get
just to get the cab.
right.
Just to get the cab.
Right.
These are the types of discriminations that have continued on today. Today, it's still hard for a black man to get a cab in New York City. So, as we talk about race, some of these things are the things that seem to go forward. Well, as it turns out, Vic, the issue today has to do with Uber. Because a bunch of folks with Uber are not so enlightened, and Uber, just like Airbnb, who we're also going to talk about, they kind of reflect the world, and that now they're being actually shown to be areas where people are expressing racial bias.
Right.
Used to be, like we said, that it was hard to get a cab. It still is hard to get a cab. A lot of black folks thought that Uber was going to be an answer to that, right?
Right.
Because that would allow you to call Uber, get a cab, not have to go through all that stuff for that kind of... Well, actually, no. Uber itself seems to be rife with discrimination.
Right.
Okay? For example, people are actually refusing to pick up people based on their profiles. So if you make an Uber profile and you have an African American sounding name or picture, you're less likely to actually be picked up.
Right. Right.
Shocking.
Yes.
The issue has to do with these type of business services are actually illegal in our country, this type of discrimination. But because of the nature of Uber, it's a whole difficulty with enforcing it, even though I gather one could put in software that would actually record how many people requested your services,
Right.
and then who you denied or
Yeah.
dealt with,
Yeah.
and their racial makeup. As it turns out, a lot of folks don't want to show this specifically. Wow. One thing. Now, as it turns out, Airbnb is another big service where this is one where you could go online and rent out apartments or homes or temporary spaces all over the world. As it turns out, there's a number of folks on Airbnb who've been experiencing racial discrimination, and Airbnb knows about it.
Right.
Airbnb knows about it. They were saying you were 16 times more likely to be refused. There are people here, specifically on Airbnb, who would rather be off the service than rent to a black person. Now, this is a big concern. Just like they've had people who are renters who run into a very interesting situation. Here's one I thought was kind of interesting. There was an Airbnb host in Washington, D.C., in a part of Washington, D.C., which is primarily black. When she rented out through Airbnb, one of her guests actually complained that when they went out in the city, that when they got on the bus, it was a lot of black people on the buses.
Okay.
And the names and the area around it.
Okay. Okay.
Wow. So I'm not here to actually indict Airbnb because they seem to be trying to deal with it, as far as I can tell. Because most businesses, are sneaky and deal with things in, not so upfront ways. And at least the dialogue. Now, I don't know. Again, I'm just getting closer and into it. The dialogue that's coming from Airbnb and Uber are such that they seem to be at least attempting to deal with it. Attempting.
Right.
Remember, Uber's already been sued for the business practices anyway, because what happens is people forget these businesses become multi-million, billion-dollar businesses, and they're actually skirting some of the labor laws when it comes to things like what they do for their drivers, those kinds of things. So that's why this is important, because Airbnb, Uber, these are huge now and growing companies whose use and their type of use is going to be more of these kinds of things, Vic. So what do you think? I mean, the idea is right now you recognize that if you want to use Uber,
right,
or now think about anything online where it's a service,
right,
where you show your picture or make a profile, that's going to impact you.
Well, look, when we first started this journey, doing, what we call it, just our web presence before it became web TV. Just use the internet. I just call it that. And then you decide what you want to do on the internet. I was already told by people, not only people specifically of our own color or culture. It says, when you put your face or you reflect this, that it's going to be harder for me to get the people in services to engage the transparency, because that's what they want. I said, well, that all depends, because the internet didn't start the issues with prejudice and biases. It just happened to be another tool. So it always existed, and I always believe you excel at what you do. Now, I can focus on what people don't do a lot, or I can just focus on what I do and be excellent at it. And that's what I'm going to do as much as possible, and I'm being given a gift of breath and life to turn around and continue this. And some of us need to go through this so we can understand what other folks are going through. And then that way we kind of get a sense of the struggle of many people. And I'm so fortunate to be where I'm at right now, that empowerment to me is more like to go help those who are ready to receive, and those who actually say, hey, diversity is wonderful. And the only thing that trumps prejudice is greed. Greed, I hate to say it, makes people kind of go, whoa, greed is good. I hate to use that word.
Well, because you want to make money, you learn that you represent businesses for black folks.
Well, at the end of the day, they're not doing a war room of going, oh, look at this wonderful service. Oh, by the way. They're going, this is a wonderful service. Oh, by the way. And then you run into these situations. So, to me, I mean, if we were concerned, our faces would not be on our website. We'd be more transparent.
I think, again, and I've said so often, people ask me the perspective of an older black man who came up in the 60s, essentially, and that at least in today's world, these are issues. In the world that I grew up in, they were not issues because no one cared. And a lot of the time we were attempting to prove racism, it was being denied. You can think of that even up recently, like I said, years ago when people talked about, the police being corrupt, the police destroyed evidence, the police did this. The general reaction of the white population, my white friends, my brothers and sisters would go, Mario, that's not true. You overstating things. It's an exaggeration. They didn't believe it.
Right.
They just straight out didn't. These are people who you can't. They knew me. No, Mario, you're overstating it. Now you don't get that argument because now instances of police brutality and conspiracy are legion. They're everywhere.
Right.
So you won't get the same argument from, that never occurs.
Right.
The Tea Party, Donald Trump, have so much reminded folks of how much bigotry and racism exists in America that that's not an argument. Like I tell people all the time, if you're a Donald Trump supporter and you're not a bigot, and I don't say that every Donald Trump supporter is a bigot, at least bigotry ain't a deal breaker for you. Okay? At least it ain't a deal breaker.
Right. Not
in this. I mean, politically, right. You got a bunch of things you think important,
right?
And bigotry is at the bottom of your list. Yeah. You just don't give a shit about what they think or talk or say about folks of color. It's not important to you.
Well, and a lot of people, and I'm not saying rightfully so, go, I'm so busy breaking up the Washington cartel. Trump represents that. But by the way, if it means these things are said and it affects you, don't worry about it. The greater cause is to break up the Washington cartel.
And you ain't breaking that up.
If it means I'm a little bigot, I'm not bigot, but I'm just kind of going like, well, that part of him is... We got to get to the bigger issue.
Yeah, the bigger. See, that's what I said. There's a bigger issue.
Right.
To who? Who?
The bigger issue.
Who's the bigger issue?
Right. See,
right.
Hey, look. Washington two-step, right?
Yeah.
I told you, being a politician. Look, man, I'm telling you now. What's more powerful than a man that has a lot of money? The power to influence that man with a lot of money to invest in you. Just because you have sway and swag. One day we'll have another Gandhi, right?
And so it goes. Ladies and gentlemen, so take a look at this. Another example of something to look closely at.
Right.
Today's inherent biases in services like Uber, Airbnb, and how your profile picture and your name. I wonder when they see Mario Hemsley, what they think it is. Or if they see Mac McAllister or Philip Cuthbert.
Oh.
I wonder what they think Victor Allen. I wonder what... They certainly don't think the same if they get Jamal Williams and Tashika Garner. Let's put it like that.
No.
Okay, so that's what I thought. I'm Mario Hemsley. This has been the news, the good news, the bad news, and definitely the other shit. The good news. Bad news. And the other, my brother.